This week's crypto recap. Bitcoin hits a record 7th straight month of gains. Can it continue? And things are popping off in the Ethereum Layer 2 ecosystem after the recent upgrade. We'll dig into just how well things are going over there in this collective shift weekly recap. Actionable insights and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. As always, we'll kick things off with a market update. And as I just said off the top there, Bitcoin putting in its 7th straight month of gains with the month of March now behind us. According to Bitstamp, one of the oldest exchanges in the industry, that is the longest monthly streak in Bitcoin's history. So 7 straight month of gains, quite unprecedented, at least since I've been in the space. And I think it's maybe getting into a bit of conversation about what goes ahead. We might just quickly touch on after this, but a few other notables from the past week in terms of price action and whatnot. Just some other things to note. Bitcoin put in its highest ever sort of monthly close, again, coming at the end of March. And it was also the end of Q1. So you can count that as Bitcoin's highest ever quarterly close as well. So Bitcoin just keeps doing its thing. If we look at sort of the 7-day here, more or less just sideways trading for BTC. It's down slightly at the time recording. ETH is down about 3% on the week, and Solana is up about 1 to 2% on the week. We've really got a notable here. Dogecoin has actually been sort of soaring back into the limelight. It's actually now 9th in terms of market cap rankings. It's up 17% over the past 7 days. But it has been quite a remarkable run for Bitcoin. I think, Nick, you would agree that just the case for a bit of price consolidation just strengthens after we see, this consistent sort of 7 monthly candles. It's hard to see it continue.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think we get into a false sense of security when we see the prices so high, and we often forget about just how high this run up has been since, I guess, the FTX bottom back in 2022 when we saw figures of 16k. I think even got as low as maybe 15 and a half, but depending on your jurisdiction. So massive run up, and I think what you're saying now, Matt, is that consolidation, and I guess we're going to see what happens after the halving, because traditionally halving has been a time of maybe sideways action, but then we see about a year after that we see maybe topping and a real acceleration in the price a few months or weeks after the halving. So although things may be slightly different this time, I'm really keeping my eye on these post-halving returns, as I think we're narrowed down on the halving date.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to forget that the halving hasn't even happened yet. It's, quite remarkable, the speed of this bull market so far. But looking back over the past week, a few notable updates for the listeners and viewers out there. You might have seen this guy all over the news once again. That was Sam-Bankman Fried, the former FTX CEO and co-founder. What news have you got for us there, Nick?
Yeah, we finally, after many months of waiting to hear about his sentencing, he's finally been sentenced to 25 years in, I think, maximum security or federal security prison. Finally, after a lot of time, we got some real definitive statement on his kind of repercussions for what he did to the industry and for the harm that he caused a lot of people out there. So for me, it's just nice to have this one over. We've been waiting for this. It's been on the back burner. Now I'm sort of looking forward to maybe some of these other FTX gang who were involved in the FTX trial, who will now finally get their time to stand in front of a judge, and we'll see how they go. We also got other upcoming sentences, such as I think CZ from Binance. His sentencing should be happening any day now or any week now. So, a lot to like there. We finally got some fundamental justice for all of the repercussions of FTX. Some people are saying 25 years not enough. Some others saying it is. I think it's pretty fair middle ground, and just glad to see SBF finally sentenced behind bars, which is good to hear.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice for some closure for the space, and we could all move on. I couldn't help but think where the industry and the market and just cryptocurrencies in general, where they are still called cryptocurrencies. I know that's something you talk about, Nick. By the time SBF does come out of prison in many years to come, where we will be as a space, it's something interesting to think about for sure. Moving on to what was formerly an exchange there with FTX to one that is still operating in KuCoin, one of the older exchanges in the space, about definitely a mid tier, not as big as some of your Coinbases and Krakens and whatnot. However, it was still very notable that we saw their founders charged with, in the US, they were charged with anti-money laundering violations. And this separately was a story in itself, but then probably more importantly for those out there who are users of KuCoin, this sparked a lot of panic, uncertainty about the future of KuCoin, whether it was solvent, whether it had ample sufficient liquidity to make sure everyone's holdings were back to 1-to-1. That really got tested as you saw a bunch of withdrawals coming from KuCoin users, basically not wanting there to be a repeat of FTX. So we saw, high, about 900 million US to, 1.5 billion US dollars worth of withdrawals in quick succession. So yeah, there was a lot of panic there for a while. Things have sort of calmed down over the weekend and whatnot, but we're definitely still on high alert for the potential for this to worsen, given how popular KuCoin is as an exchange, and it's a notable exchange in terms of their altcoin listings. They tend to be one of the more, I suppose, ones that go quite heavy on the altcoin listings, and that's probably has been the appeal of it. But they have been pretty loose over the years in terms of their compliance and whatnot, which was, I guess, what sparked this whole incident last week with the US enforcement action there. So yeah, another notable event, and we'll watch on KuCoin. But if you were a user, Nick, what would you be doing with this news?
Yeah, I had a look at DeFi Llama's centralized exchange transparency page, and we saw a nice, a lot of withdrawals, as you said, towards that 600 million. But they do have, I guess, only about 3.5 billion, so they're relatively small exchange in comparison to the rest of the space. But like anything, I probably would be, you know, issuing a healthy amount of skepticism with a lot of offshore exchanges. I know that there was talk about the founders being on the run. I think they're at the moment trying to be located. So whenever you have a situation where you have an offshore exchange, you have founders possibly on the run. I would be extremely hesitant to hold any of my cryptocurrency on the exchange. So just a matter of understanding how to do self-storage properly, because at the end of the day, if you are transferring in a bit of a panic, that can actually be just as disastrous as keeping the funds on the exchange in a way, because if you don't know how to do storage properly, that can be a real big issue. So I'm just probably issue a bit of caution there, because you don't know what these offshore unregulated exchanges are up to, and as we saw with FTX and a few others, you got to issue a really healthy amount of skepticism. But for me as well, I think maybe the thing that was overlooked was the silver lining with, I think, the CFTC statement calling ETH a commodity. And this is at a time when the SEC is rumored to be questioning ETH's legal status, and there's a lot of controversy around Ethereum from the SEC. So we have a bit of a battleground brewing here with the CFTC reconfirming what I think a lot of the industry has thought, that ETH may stand on this commodity side rather than the security side like the SEC. So kind of gearing up for a big fight here, because we're seeing a lot of conjecture just within the two major agencies that regulate a lot of digital assets in the US.
Yeah, definitely. Those two agencies have been going at for a while now over who gets the right over the whole cryptocurrency market. So yeah, hopefully we actually see some interjection and some conclusion about what that answer is, whether it's both a security and a commodity, or a hybrid of both, or a new categorization altogether. We'll have to find out over time, but that will be one of the biggest, I think, determining factors of how fast this crypto market can grow in the years to come. So yeah, worth watching there with the CFTC pushing for that commodity status for ETH. But in the meantime, we'll go back on chain, and in terms of, I guess, L2 or layer 2, ecosystem on Ethereum. That has been something that's been boiling up and brewing for the past couple of years, but I feel like there's been a really spurring in terms of activity and just usage on these L2s over the past couple of weeks. I might hand over to you, Nick, to talk about one that's really having a strong moment in the past week.
Yeah, so Coinbase's incubated L2 that's built on Ethereum has seen a real renaissance leading up or following its massive program last year where they ran on-chain summer, which saw a lot of utility and usage on-chain. Now we're really seeing acceleration of Coinbase themselves possibly moving parts of their business on-chain, which is one of the biggest news stories I've seen this year that is definitely underreported. So Coinbase's VP and head of consumer products, he said that they're going to look to store some of their client USDC on Base. And this really kind of explained why Base's TVL climbed so heavy in the last couple of weeks, moved from about 600 million to about 1 billion now on the network. So Matt showing this interesting tweet here. We can really see this idea of moving businesses on chain, which I think we underestimate how much of a big impact this has, because Coinbase is the biggest US public crypto company. And so it has really big ramifications over whether other businesses will follow their sort of move to on-chain activity. They have a lot of registered users. They've got a lot of funds in custody. So this is a real big tailwind, I think, for Base's ecosystem, blockchain, as we see more of this value, more of this user experience move on chain. And I'm really curious to see whether other businesses will follow. I know this is kind of preluded by Binance Smart Chain, which Binance and CZ said that they're seeing the future as moving just to their blockchain, which at the time was Binance Smart Chain. Now it's BNB Chain. Now we're really seeing Coinbase take that leap in a big way. So really keen to see here, Matt, whether we're going to see more of these funds flow and eventually activity center around Base.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, leading by example there with Coinbase, a public company, which I think is actually dropping their Q1 earnings report, pretty soon, which will be, again, another thing everyone will be watching. But that aside, yeah, moving, certain assets of a business, on chain, as they say, I think will be something you'll be hear more about. And I suppose the more that they can happen in a certain ecosystem, in this case, Base's ecosystem, I suppose the more that happens from a user's perspective and a developer's perspective, you almost, I guess, trust it more. We always try to talk about these chains being trustless, but in a way, you sort of tend to sway towards ones where a company as big as Coinbase is happy to trust and put some of their assets on Base. So that's something we'll definitely be watching over the months ahead, because it's really tying into this nice period that we're having here for the Ethereum L2 space. I'll get you to cover this one, Nick, in terms of the big explosion in our usage on Ethereum L2.
Yeah, no, this is something that we talked about a lot, Matt, whether we're going to see a period of induced demand once the first couple of weeks have been over, because at the end of the day, it's taken a lot of time for these L2s to support the previous Ethereum upgrade Dencun, which happened, I think, in March 13. So now we're getting some better data to understand how low these fees will be, because the first few weeks, although they looked nice on paper, that was still not representative of what the demand is like, because it takes a while to find an equilibrium, which we're still trying to find at the moment. But now more and more of these L2s are supporting this upgrade, which essentially just creates a fast lane for Ethereum L2s to post data to Ethereum. And this just radically reduces their costs for users using the L2 themselves. So we can see Arbitrum, I think a Uniswap swap is down to 4 cents. On OP mainnet, it's about 8 cents. On Base, it's about 6 cents. So we're seeing it kind of increase from these, I think, 0.006 prices that we saw at the start. So we're starting to see a bit of an equilibrium form. And I mean, I'm expecting prices to increase a bit more from here. But the biggest takeaway for me, Matt, was we saw inscriptions make their way to the Ethereum blob space, what it's called, kind of preluding Bitcoin's inscription surge. This was something that really took me by surprise, and even the surprise that it seemed like some Ethereum developers weren't as anticipating such a big surge for posting some other arbitrary data, clogging up block space for L2s who really need it. So this is one that we talked about earlier in the week, and really keen to follow this one. Not sure if you have any strong feelings about the execution and the way these fees have increased, but I'm really seeing that as a real pivotal point. Maybe it's something that gets fixed in future Ethereum upgrades. I'm really just on the sidelines waiting to see this market play out and hopefully not increase fees too much. But I'm expecting people who may not like Ethereum, or because it can really be an attack vector because it makes these L2s much more expensive to use if you're posting any other arbitrary data other than what's its purpose built for.
Yeah, definitely. We even talked about the idea of other, competitors to Ethereum or whatnot, the incentives for them to even, spam these L2s with inscriptions and whatnot, for a pretty affordable cost, really, when you think of the reputational damage could do to Ethereum. That's always a possibility. But yeah, that aside, you've definitely always got this speculative, component of the market where people, putting in, inscribing data into these just in almost as a thing of just in case, this does become a hot market or whatever. I suppose, yeah, the developers probably wouldn't have thought of that because of, their areas of focus and whatnot. But it isn't too surprising to see. But I would be quite surprised in a month from now if we're talking about this. Given, yeah, I think just it was an opportunistic sort of thing. But as you said, Nick, in a couple of weeks from now, it'd be really nice to get some more data on just the effects of these currently cheap fees on L2s, because yeah, they're really having a strong moment in terms of, yeah, just attention and excitement about them after, I feel like looking at this market and this industry day in day out, I feel like attention and excitement was really starting to sway towards like Solana, and even Bitcoin L2s and whatnot, and Ethereum, as we had spoken about, was sort of in between, a bit of a rock and a hard place. And these L2s have now been really ignited, I think, with a lot of excitement from developers and users in the last few weeks since Dencun. So definitely worth keeping in mind and watching, because I think it'll heavily dictate where prices can go in this bull market, and obviously where projects go as well. Speaking of sort of projects and altcoins, we'll cover what is a very, very busy moment happening in the world of altcoins at the moment. So we'll get through some of the biggest altcoin updates that we feel you should be knowing about as we kick off April here. One that I feel like is hot on everyone's is a hot talking point around the space at the moment is, again, sort of these attacks or these conversations about the benefits of different blockchains. One of them that's being under the spotlight recently is Solana. I think we might have highlighted last week their increased failure rate in terms of transactions. People getting annoyed and frustrated with their transactions just not going through on Solana. We definitely covered this for members because, it has been a very noticeable shift in sentiment recently. This is something that, has continued throughout last week. One thing that I think is a bit more nuanced, and I do feel that, the space has overreacted to, once I've done a bit more digging into the causes of these, failed transactions, is a lot of them are sort of acting or sort of, I guess, the failing by design. What do I mean by that? If I'm, looking to speculate on meme coins and I'm going to put $1,000 or whatever into a certain meme coin, obviously, as we all know, liquidity on meme coins is nothing, is a slither of what it is with other altcoins and cryptocurrencies. So therefore, my $1,000 buy order, if my slippage is at 1% or something like that, there could be cases where, hey, that buy order is too large and it will move the price. That has been happening, at scale around the world as people are using Solana and trading meme coins. That has been happening a lot more in recent weeks, as we know, with meme coin mania taking over. And this is causing a lot of smart contracts to obviously fail the transaction by design because people aren't putting their slippage up to a rate that they're happy with. So that's just a bit of nuance there. And I know, Nick, we also talked about the bots are also accounting for a lot of a big portion, actually the majority of these failed transactions, because you've got different arbitrage bots and whatnot trying to, opportunistically sort of benefit from this speculation and meme coin sort of mania. A lot of them, if they are, seeing a transaction where they can, benefit from, by the time that arbitrage bot sort of goes to execute, if it notices that the price is now not where it can benefit, it will automatically fail the transaction. So again, there's different reasons. Like anything in crypto, there's often a bit more nuance to sort of high level debates over is Solana or Ethereum better. This was a great example that I wanted to spend a bit of time today just getting into, because you're probably going to see more criticism of Solana's failed transaction rate, which obviously there is still other things with Solana that aren't ideal, which they're being worked on. But this was something that, just to kick off this week's altcoin update, I did just want to spend a bit of time addressing.
Yeah, Solana's a really good case example, and sometimes the nuance gets lost when you have different vested interests as well, trying to promote other blockchains and other ecosystems. I think that's one of the battle we always find in cryptocurrency, trying to find that nuanced, fair discussion around Solana. So we're really keen to maybe catch up our members on our next shift list update, which is one of the assets we have, and we're covering that quite closely. And hopefully we see some future upgrades, try and tackle some of these problems that I know that they're trying to fix. Maybe for me this week in the world of altcoins, I was really surprised, but also interested by one of the biggest kind of acquisitions and mergers in the space we've seen in a while. We saw Fetch AI, we saw SingularityNet, and we saw Ocean Protocol, all AI tokens combine, well, not combine yet, but look to combine into one to create a quote alliance for decentralized AI. Now, if you could get probably a bigger amount of buzzwords, you'd be struggling to find them here. When we're looking at, decentralized AI and combining a lot of these different platforms. So this is really just shows me the strong AI narrative is just, definitely going to be, is definitely that number one, gripping what we saw last cycle with the metaverse. We're really seeing a lot of this similar narrative accelerate, whether for good or for bad. So we're going to be putting out a member post hopefully in the next couple of weeks, diving into, I guess, the AI narrative. For a lot of people wondering or seeing massive announcements like this, questioning about whether they've missed the boat on the AI narrative, whether it's a total bubble or not. And we can see here that this new alliance will actually make the token, I think, a top 20 token by market cap. So this is going to be one of the bigger tokens out there, and we're going to really see about if it, see if its huge market valuation is justified, or whether it's just another crypto market bubble that will ride it even higher. So there's a lot of interest here, and I think at the end of the day, we're looking at the market demand for what it provides, and we'll, I guess, get a better picture of whether maybe that 100, or I think it's about $20 billion valuation it might go up to once they merge, depending if it's all the tokens are in circulation or not, whether that was really justified by the market demand. Because I know things like SingularityNet, I think they were built on Cardano, but they haven't really seen any tangible usage comparative to their market cap. So a lot to like in a way, and I'm really excited to fill members in about this AI narrative and whether we're going to just see more of these alliances form, or whether they're just a simple cash grab in a bull market.
Yeah, well said, Nick. And for anyone who sort of lost what happened, or just to reiterate, you've got three top 200 cryptocurrencies by market cap. Three of them have jointly announced, hey, we're going to make, from what I understand, they're basically going to make each of their three tokens sort of redundant, and they are now collaborating to launch a completely new token, which, as Nick said, if you combine the market caps and the expected value of these, it should be top 20, top 30 in rankings. And this is unprecedented. Definitely, we've seen different very obscure altcoins over the years combined for just two projects merging, but definitely nothing as high profile as this. So definitely a case study, and we'll see where it takes these projects. But worth keeping an eye on for sure. On to next project here, we've got Blast. So obviously Blur's sort of layer 2 that they launched recently. There was a exploit that happened. Roughly $62 million worth of tokens were stolen with a project called Munchables. Apparently, they were able to sort of recover a big chunk, if not all, of the funds. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, we sort of expected this. I would have been shocked by now if there hadn't been a project exploited on Blast. It's just the result of their aggressive marketing, I suppose, tactic and aggressive sort of growth plans, I should say, where Blast has sort of incubated so many projects so quickly, some anonymous and whatever. And I think inevitably you're going to see some exploits, which I would like to think a lot of the users bridging over there would have known about. I suppose it was a bit of more of a niche part of the crypto, I guess, user collective. But yeah, we saw the first one happen this week, and I don't think it will be the last one. What about over at Illuvium, Nick? Exciting update here for the team.
Yeah, we got a Series A raise for about $12 million. So for Illuvium team, they now have a greater runway to launch their ecosystem of games, which are coming in Q2. So this gives, I think, the community a lot of relief, knowing that all things being equal, that they have a lot of runway now to continue to accelerate and build upon their games once they launch. Because as I've reported for members, that they are, they're burning quite a lot of money, and they've made some notable expense reductions in the bear market last year and in 2022 to try and stabilize themselves. Because after all, creating a game of this magnitude is just insane, to be honest. And they're going to have to raise, probably even have a little bit more money in the kitty to try and really do justice and roll out their full marketing. And then even after they launch, they're launching at a very early state. So they're going to need future updates and continually, build upon the initial beta games that they are going to be releasing in Q2 in sort of a full-fledged format, in terms of launching NFTs in a real sort of economic PvP environment with NFTs live. So this is one thing I'm really looking forward to, and was excited to see a raise to help build some confidence in the Illuvium community.
Yeah, nice. Over in terms of wrapping up this altcoin update, we do have this is something that did surprise me over the Easter break, because I was actually scrolling through Twitter and I just kept seeing these projects coming up to launch their tokens, and then once I saw a big list of them, I sort of definitely wrote this down for the podcast, because it's something in this bull market that I haven't seen so far. It is the amount of projects actually launching this week and releasing their airdrops. So we've got a list here. So we got Wormhole with the W token, Parcel, Nim, Zeus, Athena, and Camino. So all of those, if my research was correct, are all going live within the next 1 to 2 weeks. A lot of these we covered, on our collectiveshift.io/airdrops page, flagged them, over the past, 12 months or so. And why is this such a significant event? I think it marks a big moment for airdrop season, where I think a lot of people you'll start to see are questioning whether this is the peak of airdrop season, and if it's time to maybe stop farming for airdrops. Second biggest, I think, reason why this is such big news is you're going to see, well, essentially created overnight, tens of billions of dollars worth of valuations of these tokens. So that's now being added to the crypto market cap. And I would question, I'm interested to see whether liquidity will be drained, or not drained, but liquidity will be decreased from other altcoins, which are maybe struggling for attention, because as we know, the market loves these hot, new, shiny things in the bull market. And then probably the third of three reasons why this is such a big event happening over the next 1 to 2 weeks is that a lot of these tokens are actually deployed on Solana. So Solana was one of the first altcoins I purchased this bull market about 12 months ago now, and it's one that we've covered all the way through the bear and bull market. And a big reason why I've been so bullish on Solana is a very simple reason, but I think it's a powerful one in terms of just the wealth effect that is the wealth effect of the Solana ecosystem, where users, I think, will get very large airdrops. Some of them they'll sell, pay some for taxes, obviously. And then the Solana sort of token there, the demand to buy some SOL token, putting some back into the ecosystem, I think is also a powerful effect that a lot of people underrate. So that's just something why I think these projects coming up in the next couple of weeks are really important. And yeah, I'll be watching to see the demand for them once they do go live. Okay, Nick, I'll hand over to you for things you are looking forward to in the next week ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot happening outside of the halving countdown, which is now in that 17, 20 days. It's really hard to know because it all depends on the block time. But we're looking at maybe April 19, April 20, 21, 22. All eyes are pretty much on the Bitcoin halving. I'm expecting a lot of mainstream media to pick this up. Really excited to see the reporting that goes on. Past bull markets, we saw some misreporting about how the Bitcoin halving works, which for me, that's a test to see if the market or if mainstream media is finally paying attention to Bitcoin and understanding it, which is kind of a really small little test case for me to pay attention to. The other things to look forward to include the FTX bankruptcy estate. So if you're a creditor here, I think check out your emails because I think they're going to start the bankruptcy process in the coming weeks, as well as we got, I think, some things floating around the rumor mill. Talk about Morgan Stanley possibly offering Bitcoin ETFs to their clients. This would be a major one. They were rumored in the last couple of weeks to, be evaluating these products. They're one of the big firms yet to roll it out to their clients. So if they do, I think we can expect some more demand enter the market, and another big vote of confidence for Bitcoin ETFs. Perhaps a smaller one that no one is talking about is the trial of Tornado Cash creator Alexei Persev. Probably butchered his name, but it's important to recognize the precedent setting this potentially has for the market. So Tornado Cash was just a big mixer that allowed people to hide the way that they transferred their cryptocurrency online. We're expecting a possible decision in mid-May in the Netherlands. So this is a huge case outside of the Coinbase one to really set a precedent for the way cryptocurrency anonymity is treated and how KYC works, because that was a big focus in the trial that I was looking at. So we've got a few points here, as well as the CZ sentencing. So a lot happening in the crypto markets, like always, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen with some of these big trials.
Yeah, for sure. And bring it back to, as we wrap up here, underrated, overappreciated, which one was it from the past week? I'm going to kick things off with Tether. I still think it's underappreciated just how profitable they are as a business. And, as a result of that, how much demand for BTC they have. We saw about 12, 18 months ago, they announced that with their excess reserves, so that basically, some of their profit, they were committing to slowly stacking some Bitcoin. I think it was up to 10% or up to 15% of profits. So sort of leaving it pretty loose there in terms of how much they actually acquire. But it's come out in the past couple of days that in Q1 of this year, it looks like Tether has added nearly 8,900 BTC to its balance sheet just in the space of 3 months. So for those appreciating the scale of this, it now brings Tether up to being the 7th largest holder of Bitcoin. It now has over 75,000 BTC. So I would say this is underappreciated because we see so much attention on MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, and ETFs. Sure, it is a larger sort of quantity that you're dealing with them, but Tether will just continue to buy Bitcoin because I don't see its profitability sort of deteriorating anytime soon. So one to sort of keep in terms of another sort of bullish reason why I think BTC will keep going higher this year. What have you got for us this week, Nick?
I'm really looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum L2s. We saw possibly a lot that will launch in the upcoming halving for Bitcoin. We're seeing a lot of projects pencil that date in to catch the halving narrative and kind of capture this idea that you can build on Bitcoin in a more trustless way. And then over on the Ethereum side, I was really taken aback by some podcasts I was listening to on things like Bankless, where a lot of discussion is on the value accrual for these L2s, especially when you compare it to ETH. This is the one thing I'm really paying attention to in the coming months. It's really tough to pick the winners out of these L2s, considering that if we look a couple years in the future, it's really tough to know who's going to be surviving. So I'm really looking forward to OP's Prover, which is in testnet at the moment, and hopefully we hear an announcement in the coming weeks and months of a mainnet release, because this greatly increases the decentralization of optimism, which is a huge bearish point at the moment. A lot of people are criticizing these L2s for being highly centralized, especially optimism. Now that it's still relatively early on its training wheels still on, this is going to take some of those training wheels off and provide a lot of decentralization.
Yeah, exciting times over for optimism that we'll be keeping an eye on. But in terms of this week, that is a wrap. If you are looking for more insights, head over to collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's where you can subscribe to our weekly Shift newsletter. It comes out every Friday, straight to your inbox, free market insights on everything you need to know about. That website, again, for anyone wanting to subscribe, is collectiveshift.io/newsletter.